Hey everybody, what's going on? Charlie here with Justin, and we are back for another episode of the Chasing Dreams podcast, episode 22. What's up, Justin?
Not much, man. A lot of yard work today and just, living the dream.
Yep, a lot of productivity, I'm sure. So,
Oh, yeah.
for the second week in a row, I believe second week in a row, we're joined by a guest.
Yes.
So, give me a minute to introduce our newest guest interview here to the podcast. Today, we have an individual who's lost almost 100 pounds of weight loss. We aren't specifically sure on the exact number because we didn't really weigh him, at his heaviest weight. But he recently completed Andy Frisella's 75 hard challenge, which we're going to get into what that is and what it looks like because I think that it could be a huge motivator for people. This individual is also a coach and a mentor to countless student athletes. So welcome to the show, Jeff Weidger.
How's it going, guys?
Dude, thanks for joining us today. So to provide a little bit of background and preemptively kind of introduce you a little bit more, Jeff, you and I have been friends for probably about 6 years now-ish?
Yeah, somewhere right around 2014, I think.
And you and Justin have been friends for about 6 minutes, I think?
Yeah, just met. Virtually just met.
Literally.
So
Yeah.
You and I started coaching together back in, it would have been my first year when I moved to Ohio, which is probably 2014, I think. And so we coached together, coach high school football. And that's kind of when your and I relationship kind of started. We were both roughly the same age because I'm 30 now. I don't like saying it on air, but I'm 30. And you're what, 27?
26.
Okay, 26. Yeah, I gave you an extra one. Sorry about that.
So
you're right.
Don't add years.
So you're right about my age, which kind of like on a coaching staff, both being young coaches, we kind of connected and spent a lot of time game planning together. And ultimately, your and I relationship kind of transitioned into talking less about football and, more about working out. It kind of seemed like.
Yeah. I mean, we ended up talking more about life in general, not just working out. But, I was in college at the time. I think the first 2 years we were together. So, people in college are going through all kind of different life changes that you're not really prepared for. So it was nice to have someone that you had been through that stuff just a few years before. So we had pretty much branched into everything from sports to life, working out, all that stuff.
That's why I think coaching at a young age really helped me, especially because like it made me more self-aware of like my process and like how I went through everything because I was constantly repeating it to kids like high schoolers. And I related to them well because number one, I'm old enough to have experienced everything that they're going to be going through shortly. But then number two was I was young enough, like you said, to have recently gone through it. So like, I think the relatability factor, not only with you, but with the players kind of helped me kind of look at my own life and say, because I was constantly repeating, what I did in high school and what I did in college and what I would do if I was in their shoes and give my 2 cents on different things. And it just kind of like made me look a little bit more retroflectively about everything and kind of, analyze my life a little bit closer, whereas normally I probably wouldn't have.
Yeah, for sure. I think that was a huge advantage for you and I noticed that with most of the coaches our age, as long as you're committed and the kids see that you're committed, I think they really respect that and they don't take advantage of you just because of your age. I think they will still respect you like they would an older coach, but they can relate to you a lot more because they know you're closer in age. So they really seek out your advice rather than, seeking out the advice of, your 45, 50-year-old coach. Not that, there's anything wrong with that, but you're just a little more relatable for some kids. So it does give them a different outlet, I think.
Oh, society like changes so much because like I even think now about like I watch myself slowly become, the get off my lawn uphill both ways to school coach where I like talk about how lazy everybody is now and how it was different in my day and like all that stuff as I like, and again, it's only been a couple years and I'm already turning into that. So when you hear coaches kind of preach that to like the new school group of kids, they kind of tend to tune it out sometimes because I've noticed that I've gotten tuned out a lot more than I was previously. So I definitely need it.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So to get us started, now I kind of have a good knowledge about your background, just from being friends for previous years. But for Justin and then our listeners, the first thing we got to ask is, who is Jeff? Like, I know we talked about, you lost almost 100 pounds and counting because you're currently going through like some physical changes. You did these challenges and stuff, but kind of dig deeper. Like you can take it to childhood, you can take it to, what you do now. You can kind of give us the bridge from childhood to now, but just if someone were to ask very vaguely, who is Jeff, what would you say?
Yes, I'll keep it as short as possible because it's not going back to childhood. It's not very interesting. There's not much. I'm very average. I had lived a very normal life for the most part. Like I said, I'm 26 years old, and I work. I actually work for a mortgage lender. I'm in financing, so like don't do anything in the fitness world. Similar to Charlie, I actually took a break from coaching a year or two ago once I took this job because I just didn't have the time for it. I was after Charlie and I. After we stopped coaching together, I think I was coaching in a school in Youngstown for 2 or 3 years, and I had actually accepted a job in a school in West Virginia, and I didn't even get to start it before I took this job up here with who I'm with now. So, but first I'm actually really honored that you guys asked me to do this because, like I said, I'm just extremely average. Like the guys you've had on here and women you've had on here previously, like Natalie, Johnny, Chris, you had recently, like those people are close to professionals in their field. Like they're really, really good in their field. And like, I don't do anything like that, but I think I bring a different perspective. So I just appreciate you guys asking me to do it when, you've had people like that on here. But no, I mean, I just took I have the average life. I played sports in high school, and I was always a little overweight in high school, but I was never anything, I wasn't obese. I wasn't anything crazy. I was just, slightly overweight. So I played football, baseball, basketball. And when I went to college, I didn't play any sports. I went to the University of Akron. I didn't play any sports there, but that was when I really started to gain weight from there. So, like I said, I'm not anyone, don't have any crazy accomplishments. I'd like to get back into coaching eventually, as I'm sure you would too, Charlie. I know that's something we both have a passion for, but just honestly, I haven't had the time for it yet. And I just don't know when or where that's going to happen. But I'd like to get back into that eventually because I think that's part of what makes me who I am. So I really enjoyed, I have a passion for football for one, but I really enjoyed being around high school kids and working with them specifically.
No doubt. And when you coach, you realize that coaching your love for coaching kind of supersedes your love for the sport. Because when I started coaching, it became very time consuming because I'm a very all or nothing type of person. Like I'm either 100% or 0% just by nature. I've always been that way. And so when I quit coaching, I was, going to focus on just more or less self-improvement and kind of professional development in my own right, because financially, emotionally, socially, I was in the exact same position I was having come into coaching 6 years prior as I was, at the current time of when I stopped coaching football. And it's like, what have I accomplished in the 5 years that I coached? Like nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of eye-opening for me. And I said I needed to step away for a little bit to kind of focus on myself. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to help other people. And then wrestling came up and I kind of got, reeled into that. And Johnny, who we've had on the show before, was like, listen, dude, you only have to work like 3 days a week. We just want you to do our strength programming, just come in and do our lifting after school 3 days a week. And that's it. Like, we don't want you to be like dedicating all this time because we know that you value your time and you have tons of clients that you train and stuff. And so I was like, okay, well then me being me, I couldn't not go all in 100%. And then I ended up going to practices and learning wrestling a lot deeper than I'd ever understood it because I wasn't a wrestler. I was a basketball player in winter sports. So like I ended up just being like completely all in, and it drained me, but it was a good type of draining. And like even Justin, like hanging around with me was like seeing what the coaching side is like, because Justin being a wrestler, it's like you look at things from a different perspective for sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Surely do.
I mean, it was like Justin, like even being back in the room, it just like it opened your eyes to, and you every time you're done with the sport, the hindsight is 2020 always. Like you always wish you would have done something different. You always see it in a different light.
Yeah, just being in a room a few times with you guys, man, I want to do it so bad. I want to coach. Like I that's something that I've always wanted to do, and I think in the near future, that's gonna be something that I shoot for as well.
So like the coaching thing is something, Jeff, that we could talk about forever, just because of like the student athletes that you've mentored and the kids that you've worked with. And that's kind of a big thing that, we promote here, obviously. But let's start again with the fitness stuff. You said that you were overweight, and we talked before we started briefly, and we kind of did like a little debriefing before we started recording here. You talked about how you got pretty overweight, and the heaviest that you weighed in, you said, was what, 277?
The heaviest I remember actually being on a scale was it was about 277, 278. But I mean, I know at one point I was in the low 280s, and I just was too embarrassed to weigh myself. So I know I was probably somewhere between 280 and 285 at one point. But the highest I ever remember seeing on a scale was, I think it was 277 or 278.
I can totally relate to the embarrassed to see the number on the scale. Just so you know.
Yeah, no, and it's funny because it's like no one else is gonna see it. It's just me, but still, like, when you're that overweight, and obviously there's different stages of it, but you're just in denial. You don't want to see that way. Even though in my head I knew that I was, grossly overweight, I just didn't want to know that number. I didn't want to know it, so I just was like, well, I don't weigh myself. I don't have to know it. It almost trying to block it out, but at the end of the day, you're too overweight.
And
the number makes it extremely real.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I think people are afraid to weigh themselves. Like I was. It's like you don't want to see that because that is what makes it real.
Yeah, when it's not tangible, when you just say, "Oh, you're fat," that's kind of ambiguous. But when you realize how fat, you have a specific number to it. It kind of like floats in your head. And sometimes I think it's easier to be like the ostrich in the sand. How you just put your head in and basically ignore the problem, even though you know the elephant's in the room. Because like I've had that, and you see it all the time in the bodybuilding world with people and their blood work. Like especially people who abuse anabolics or whatever. Like they look at their blood work, or they don't look at their blood work, I should say, and they know that it's bad. They know that they have so many health markers that are out of control, but they don't even want to get their blood work done because they're afraid of what it's going to look like almost.
Yeah.
Yep.
Even though it's common sense that you got to get it done, it's just one of those things where if you keep ignoring it, maybe it'll be, I don't know, out of sight, out of mind, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, and it doesn't make any sense with weight, but that's seriously, I feel like that's what where that mindset comes from. Is it's like, well, if I don't see it, maybe I'll eventually start losing weight on my own. But obviously, that just doesn't really happen unless you really get motivated and do something different than what you're doing today.
So, like Justin and I talk a lot, and we have in the past, about his weight loss journey. And one of the things that we've hit on a couple of times in different episodes to different degrees is like, what causes you to want to lose weight? Because there's obviously a progression on the working up in weight, and then something has to click. For some people, it's very sudden, and it just starts like a downhill, or I guess an uphill trajectory in the sense of it's beneficial, but downhill in weight loss where you're just like, okay, I'm losing right now. Other people, their weight loss journey tends to be as progressive as their weight gain journey was. They gain weight very slowly over the years, and then they kind of chip away at it and get a little bit healthier at a time. What was like the moment for you where you said, okay, I'm too overweight. I think that I need to change something?
Yeah, so kind of like I said before, like I've been overweight my whole life, just to a different extent. And it wasn't really until probably I think it was 2014 that I really had started to get up in like the 260, 270 range. And, I probably sat there. I think I didn't start losing weight until the end of 2018 is when I really started to make some headway. But between 2014 and the end of 2018, 2019, like I had tried so many times to lose weight. I had tried different diets. And, you know this because you had actually helped me with a few diets. We had tried some different stuff. And some stuff I wouldn't like it, or I'd get lazy and just quit it, whatever it was. So I tried so many times, and it just never stuck with me. I never did it. But then, eventually, after that goes on for so long, I'm such a competitor. I'm so competitive with everything I do. So I kind of took it to that mindset, and it was like I was just so tired of, being like a quote unquote loser. Like I was so sick of being overweight. I was sick of being the time I was unhappy. Like I just didn't enjoy my life. And I was like, at some point it was like, you got to get tired of losing. It was, I got sick of that. And I'm like, why, this isn't going to change on its own. I'm either going to live my whole life like this, or eventually you have to make a change. So I honestly don't remember a day where it was just, like where something really cool happened. It was just eventually I was like, you know what, I got to do something. Like I got to make a big change. I have to start doing stuff. So I just kind of gradually started working my way to it. I said, hey, I had still actually, when I was overweight, I'd still worked out and like played basketball and stuff like that once or twice a week. So it wasn't like I was going from no activity to a full ramp up. But I just had started going to the gym like 5 days a week, and slowly started cutting out specific foods, and then it just kind of snowballed on me to where, you know, the weight just started flying off. And then, you know, Justin will understand, once you start seeing that weight fly off, that motivation starts getting a lot easier. It's like, okay, now that you're seeing the difference, not only on the scale, but in the mirror, it's a lot easier to get up every day and eat healthier and go to the gym and stuff like that.
For sure. Yeah, I can actually relate to like almost all of that, except for the part where you were active, you know, as to where, you know, whenever I started losing weight, it was sudden. There wasn't a day, like you said, I didn't ever had a day where I was like, you know what, this is the day I'm going to start. I remember the day I started eating right, but the trigger day I never had. It was just like, you know, you come to realization that you have to get it done. And I can relate to on the fat side and the weight loss side, like where you said you were, you know, you like to be, you're competitive, extremely competitive. So like, I'm the same way. I have to be the best at what I'm doing. So like when I was fat, the biggest guy, that was the best at being the big guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like whenever I started losing weight, I was like, you know, I'm going to be the best at losing weight. Like I'm going to try my best to be the best at this because that's just who I am.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, and I think I don't remember. I don't really remember like a first day either, because like I said, I tried so many times. So like I remember times where, you know, Charlie and I had sat down and, you know, written out a diet for me, did everything, spent hours on a diet, a workout plan, and I would do it for a few months, and it's not that, you know, it would work, and it just, you know, that fire would burn out. It just wouldn't be there anymore. For some reason or another, I would just stop. And I really don't know why. And I think that's one of the reasons I don't remember the exact date, because I remember a lot of times where I tried and failed. And, you know, honestly, those times actually ended up motivating me to actually stick through it this time. So it's, you know, I appreciate those times. You know, I needed those failures to kind of motivate me to where this time everything actually worked.
I think a large part of it, not necessarily in your case, although this could be an issue, I see it a lot where people have like an accountability issue. So I'll have a lot of clients that I work with who have a pretty good knowledge base, at least a fundamental enough knowledge base to do the weight loss that they want to do. They may not understand, you know, the science and the high end stuff behind everything, but they know generally how to eat healthy, generally how to, you know, exercise for their goals, and how to live a better life that they want to live in terms of weight loss or whatever. But oftentimes I see that it's a lack of accountability, where I've actually had people be open about that. Like, hey, you know, I want to hire you as a coach so that I have someone to check in, because, you know, I had a lady recently who I started working with last month who said that she hates getting on the scale. You know, which is understandable because you guys both said it. A lot of people say it when you're overweight. She said that she hates getting on the scale because, you know, she doesn't like seeing the number. And so she just won't do it, because if I don't like something, I'm not going to do it. So she asked me, you know, would you take me on as a client, and kind of, you know, just to hold me accountable for someone to, you know, check the number and make sure that I'm progressing and make sure that I'm stepping on the scale to hold myself accountable too. So you see that all the time, actually, where people don't have someone there in their ear. That's why I always try to push people towards coaching instead of like one-time consultations, because I'll do like workout programs and diets for people, but it's just so hard because like I give it to them and they'll follow it for a little bit, but then I can't make changes. I can't see the progress. I can't do updates based on like their biofeedback and what's happening in their life and their stress and their weight loss or weight gain or what have you. So it's very, 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 very rarely do I have someone who is put on like a one-time type of program and ends up manipulating it on their own well and then having success down the road. Usually it seems to me like there's a pretty high burnout rate.
That's huge too with you. I've noticed is you get so invested in your clients that you have to know, you know, like you have to make them changes because you know it's necessary.
Well, I
Like,
think it may be too, like, call me selfish. Because people always like say like, oh, that's great that you help all these people and stuff. And I'm not undermining that, like, what I do. And I'm not saying that like I'm not a great person, but like, number one is they're paying me, obviously. It's not like I'm doing it for free. And number two is like my name is attached to that as well. So I do care about the person genuinely, and I want to have so much investment in them because I want them to reach their goals. But at the same time, you have to look at it selfishly too. And I know that sounds kind of like outlandish, but like like Justin, I'll use you as an example. If I have Justin as my client and I've trained Justin for 2 years and Justin's lost 10 pounds in 2 years, well, that doesn't look very good for me because Justin, believe it or not, would kind of be in some people's eyes excused from accountability because they're like, they don't say, what are you doing? Or what are you eating? Or what they'll say, what's your coach having you eat? Why are you hiring this guy? Why are you paying this guy? So then for me, I kind of have to almost like force adherence to the plan. Like if I'm putting this plan together, you better be following it because my name is attached to this. And I don't do a lot of advertising of myself and my business. It's pretty much word of mouth. So if I have clients that aren't following the plan and aren't seeing results, then other people are going to see that I'm training them and they're not seeing results. So why would they hire me? You know what I mean?
Right. Absolutely. It's funny that you keep bringing up accountability too, because that's something that every time that this topic comes up, I go back to is accountability. Whenever, because I read a lot, and David Goggins talks about the accountability mirror in his book Can't Hurt Me, and I actually use the accountability mirror every day
Uh-huh.
because it's my center. Like I spend 3 to 5 minutes every day in the mirror, looking at all them post-it notes of all the things that I've done over the last year and a half, all the things that I want to do and the things that have failed and where I started and where I'm at. And it's kind of like an everyday AAR, after action report of every day. Like, what did you do and how can you do it better?
Yep.
Yeah, that's funny because I was writing some notes down earlier today just to keep make sure I keep myself on track and everything. And accountability is one of the words I put down earlier today because I think that's one of the biggest things in this program that I did is self accountability because as much as I'm sure Charlie would like it, like you can't have a trainer your whole life. It's not. Obviously, when you're first getting into shape, it might take 6 months, might take a year, might take 3 years. But at the end of the day, like you have to keep that going through your whole life. And, not everyone's going to have a trainer their whole life. So that was one of the big things I had thought that this program, one of the biggest benefits of it. And it's funny because I also had read, I also read David Goggins' book while I was doing this program. I read through his whole book. I've always liked him. I've always listened to him talk and stuff like that. But it was fantastic.
And I think that
Yeah, I think
you shouldn't have a trainer. Like not only you can't, but you shouldn't. And that's kind of, I've spoken to that before about how kind of my goal when I work with people is I kind of compare it to like a wildlife reservation where I'm keeping these animals and teaching them how to live. And if they're able to go on their own, which they all should be, then I release them back into the wild after they're, rehabbed or whatever. Because like, I don't want to have long-term clients. Like I love the relationship and I love working with people, but ideally, depending on where your knowledge levels are at or where your goals are at, like 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 8 months, whatever, I want to teach you all that I can that's relevant to the goals you're trying to accomplish and then set you on your own. Like I don't want to form dependency. I don't want someone to have to come to me and say, hey, what do I do for this? And what do I do for that? And if I don't update them, then they have no clue what to do. Like I want to be a teacher more than, just giving orders and telling people what to do. I want to share why to do it. And I think that anytime you work with someone or follow a program, you should take it into your own hands to learn as much as possible. Don't just do a workout program. Understand why you're doing the things you're doing, understand why you're eating the foods you eat. So I think that accountability can look like that too and should look like that.
absolutely.
So you
Yeah, I
talked,
agree.
Jeff, about the program. So the
Mhm.
program, we talked about it on an earlier episode, was Andy Frisella's 75 Hard Challenge, which I had never heard of it. I vaguely knew who Andy Frisella was. I had heard of him. Um, he's written books, correct? I know he's a motivational
Yes.
speaker. What all does Andy do?
So he's mainly an entrepreneur in the basic sense, but he owns a few businesses, and the main one is First Form, which is the supplement company. It's one of the bigger supplement companies in the world. So he owns multiple businesses, but he is essentially just considered an entrepreneur, but that is his main business that he's known for. And he does little speaking events. I know he's involved in some other stuff, but mainly that is what he's known for, is the First Form, supplement brand.
And then in the world of social media today, like the word entrepreneur kind of takes on a whole new meaning, because you can be an influencer like he is as well. Sometimes I think the word influencer gets some negative connotations associated with it. Like people think, oh, it's just someone who's Instagram famous, but like he's used social media as a platform, not necessarily just to build his business from what I've seen, but also to like reach out and do things like the 75 Hard Challenge, where he's, really touching home with a whole lot of people with that, I think.
Yeah, so he actually does. He's been on a podcast. I think it started in like 2016. I honestly didn't find out about him until like the start of 2019, I think it was. Really right when I started my fitness journey in general. But I know he's done a podcast for a few years, and he does it, it's completely for free on Spotify. He doesn't even run ads on there. So he's really, he says multiple times, like, not making money off this. He's doing that to give back to the community, give back to people. And honestly, his social media pages, I follow his Instagram religiously, and he very rarely posts anything about any supplements. It's all, him documenting stuff about like his workouts, what he's doing, and talking about, society and what's going on today and what's going on with workout stuff. Like he's been so beneficial for me, and I just, randomly just found him on the internet one day.
And so he has this 75 Hard Challenge, which we also talked about in that episode. And I kind of, off the top of my head, because Justin, you had never heard of it, correct?
No, never heard of it until we talked about it. I think it was in 18.
And I didn't know about it either until Jeff, you brought it to me and said that you were going to follow it. And I kind of like tried to outline it to the best of my ability, but I didn't really know exactly all the ins and outs of it. So Andy Frisella has a 75 Hard Challenge, which, Jeff, you were kind of losing weight periodically and getting in better shape. And you had gotten all the way down to 220 pounds, which is roughly 60 plus pounds from where you were. And you kind of want to take it to the next level. So you told me you were doing this. For the listeners, can you kind of outline what the 75 Hard Challenge entails and what it all is about?
Yeah, so I mean, what he calls it is a program, because it's not. He doesn't like the connotation of a challenge, but it's. He calls it the 75 Hard Program. If you get on social media, you get on Instagram, you can just search up like hashtag 75 Hard, and you can find everyone. Everyone pretty much documents their journey on there. I honestly did.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Is he real big about the not using the program or the challenge word? I should probably not say challenge.
Yeah. No, I know. Yes, he is. That's I forget when he addressed that one time, and it was like a long thing. But yeah, he considers it a program, which I understand, and I agree. Now that I've done it, I kind of understand why. But I found out about it. I want to say it started sometime in 2019. It was after I had already been watching his stuff, and he had came up with it, released a podcast on it and everything. And I had seen it and wanted to do it, but I just never really could pull the trigger for multiple reasons. I wasn't completely motivated at the time, and I just couldn't really decide. And I do remember one day I came to you and I said, hey, I think I want to try this. I want you to look over it and see what it looks like. So, basically there are 6 main rules of it and a few, guidelines along with that. So, you have to, the first rule is you follow a diet. Doesn't matter what kind of diet, doesn't matter, what you do, you just have to follow a diet. You can do that diet however you want to.
And you and I kind of troubleshooted through that a little bit early on. Again, sorry to kind of keep butting in here, but you mentioned to me when you first started doing this that you were going to set up a diet and you weren't really sure what to do and how structured to make it. And you and I kind of bounced some ideas back and forth of, okay, why don't we, there's a couple different ways. You could do like a macro split where you're measuring protein, carb, and fat intake. You could do, specific food measurements like 6 ounces of this, 1 cup of this every single meal. Since there's no real guidelines or restrictions, you could make it pretty vague and generalized and just eat, all healthy food and split it up between 4 meals. What exactly did you end up settling on as far as the diet goes for when you started this program?
So I actually did a combination of a few different things, and that stuff that some ideas I had bounced off you, and at the end, like with a diet, it's just what worked for me. I think everyone tries to do like the popular diet, like a keto diet or this or that, and it's at the end of the day, you have to find a diet that you can follow. So I had really kind of tailor made it to stuff that I wanted to do, stuff I knew I could do. So I'd really done a low carb diet. Wasn't completely no carbs, but I think I was only taking in like 60 grams of carbs a day. It was carbs from jasmine rice, carbs from a little bit of carbs from peanut butter, maybe a slice or two of wheat bread a day, but that was really it. So it was a low carb in that sense. And then I'd also done like an intermittent fasting part of it, where I know a lot of intermittent fasting, you do like 16 hours. I was doing about 13 hours of the fasting. So wasn't doing the full on. And I know a lot of them have like 16 to 18 hours of fasting. I was only doing about 13 or 14, but I kind of combined those two and put some other principles in there that you and I talked about as well. Like I wouldn't eat carbs at the end of the day, stuff like that. So it really kind of one that I customized to myself. And, I'm sure a lot of people are like, well, that might not work. That might not make sense. But that was just, again, that was what worked for me.
Yeah, the best diet's the one you're going to be able to stick to. That's for sure.
Yeah,
exactly. So
all right, so the next part.
The second rule was just a progress picture every day. Take a progress picture in the mirror, and you do that rather than weighing yourself. I think you could, talk for hours about that, on why that's better than weighing yourself. But rather than weighing yourself every day, which I decided to weigh myself every 5 days, just for personal reasons, but take a progress picture in the mirror every day. So that was rule number 2. Rule number 3 is 1 gallon of water a day. Pretty simple, easy. Number 4 was 2 45-minute workouts a day. Now it's a minimum of 45 minutes, and the one has to be outside, which I think you guys have talked about previously. So at least one of them has to be outside. So you could do 2 of them outside, but which I never ended up doing. I actually thought about it at one time, but you're required to do 1 inside and 1 outside. So that was the 4th rule there. Now
I got a question about the 4th rule.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm taking notes. So the 2 workouts, 1 outside workout, could that literally be like go for a 45-minute walk, or is there like structure to that outside workout?
No, there's no structure to it. And the reason being, and you'll be able to understand this, is some people can't run for 45 minutes. I know when I first started, I couldn't. At the end of the day, at the end of the workout, the program, I was able to do 45 minutes straight running, but I was not someone who was a runner before this. So when I first started, I would run for 5 minutes on and 5 minutes off outside. And I actually ended up injuring myself about 15, 20 days through. And I had to do 2 weeks where I was just doing hard walks. Like I was trying to walk as fast as I could. So yeah, that outside workout can be a walk. And for the reason being, like, some people can't run that long, or some people can't run at all. When you first started working out, you were your highest weight, like, I'm sure you weren't running for 45 minutes, but that walk's a workout for you.
I couldn't walk for 45 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. So like that is a workout for you. So that's where all the self-accountability comes in here, because as long as you're doing a workout, like, because some people are probably thinking, well, I could run for 45 minutes, but why wouldn't I just walk? Because the program lets me. It's like, well, you're just trying to find a way out at that point, and that's not what this program's made for. Like, it's not, this is supposed to be more of a mental thing to keep yourself accountable and have the discipline to do as hard as you can every day. So to answer your question, yeah, you can walk if you need to, or if you have to. And that's still considered a workout. As long as you're pushing yourself and getting better, that's a workout.
It kind of like negates your ability to talk yourself out of doing things. Like if I give you a workout, program with specifics and say you have to do this, and you look at it, it's very easy to say, oh, I can't do this, I'm not going to. Whereas you can't say that I can't do it, because you can literally do any type of work outside that's exercising. So like, it's not like running or it's not sprinting. It could be literally just walking, and you're capable of doing that. So you can't talk yourself out and say, oh, I can't do this.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's one of the things I loved about this as well when I first found it, is the flexibility of everything, and being able to do this on your terms and still following the guidelines while doing a diet you want, the kind of workouts you want. Like there's no specifics with the inside workout either. It wasn't, lift this much a day. Like, there's no specifics with that stuff. It's just, an inside workout, an outside workout. And it's on you to have the accountability to do that, to the best of your ability.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
there were the two workouts there. The fifth rule was for all 75 days, no alcohol, no cheat meals. Now the alcohol was no problem. I mean, I'm not much of a drinker, so that was no problem. Now the cheat meals, most people never went 75 days in their life without a cheat meal, including myself. So that was one of the hardest things I had to come to terms with when I started this, was going 75 days with 0 cheat meals, because that's like I said, that's something I've never done before. Even as I've lost 60 pounds previously, I had always had cheat meals worked in somewhere, whether it was 1 a week or 2 a week, whatever. There were always some in there. So that was that was kind of a culture shock. But
I've never done it either, even in prep. Like, now you kind of use the term cheat meal a little liberally here, because it's not that I was like cheating and going against the diet, but like we would have like structured refeeds where it's like, hey, tonight eat whatever you want, and then tomorrow we're going to get right back on square one or whatever. So like, I've never gone 75 days without eating something like that. I don't think that at least that I can remember, because 75 days is a long time.
Oh yeah. That was the scariest thing for me when I started, is that I'd never done that in my life, and I'm a big snack guy. I love sweets. I love chocolate and stuff like that. I was genuinely. I think that's one of the reasons I pushed it off for a while. I was worried that I wouldn't be able to do that part. So yeah, I mean, that was one of the hardest ones for me, I think, mentally at least. But and then the last actual rule is just 10 pages of reading a day. Minimum of 10 pages of reading. Some days I would do 15, 20, just depending on when I was doing it, how much time I had. But and the book is supposed to be some type of a motivational self-help book, something that you're going to learn from, so it's non-fictional. So that was one of the guidelines with the reading as well. So like like I mentioned, I had read Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. I read a book called Toughness by Jay Billis, who's a college basketball analyst. He played college basketball at Duke. I'd read Win Forever by Pete Carroll, who's an NFL coach for the Seahawks, coached at USC for a while. And I read Relentless, which I admittedly had already read, but it's been a few years, so I want to read it again. Relentless by Tim Grover, who was Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Dwayne Wade. He was their personal trainer of 100 other athletes, but those are the most notable ones. So I had read those, and part of that too is you weren't allowed to do audiobooks. So that was another way. A lot of people I had read were like trying to get out of it by listening to audiobooks while they were doing their workout or something like that. And he was very specific about needing to actually have a physical book and read it.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I mean,
that's kind of the whole outline.
Those are all. Yeah. So those are all the outlines, and the last thing, the only other outline with it is if you fail anything one day, you start from day one. So there's no I fail on day 23. I messed up. I can start back over tomorrow and start at day 24. Like if you mess anything up, you go back to day one.
So one day of not reading the 10 pages, you're done.
Absolutely. So so I personally, I made a checklist on my phone. I have it still in my notes. I have day one, I have 75 inserts in there. Every day I put a six checklist in there and checked everything off as I did it to keep myself from just forgetting something. Because how easy would it be just to forget to take a picture in the mirror one day? And then it's like, well, I got, if you do that on day 55, it's like, well, I just wasted 55 days because I forgot to take a picture. Like, it sounds kind of stupid, but it has a reason, it has a purpose. So like, I made a checklist on my phone. I made sure to check every night before I went to bed and make sure I didn't forget anything, because starting from day one, if you fail, is like, that sucks.
Like, I feel like there's so many questions I want to delve into now, just because there's so many different routes we can go with this. So like, when you do, let's take the training, for example. You had the unique, I guess, challenge of the quarantine for this 75-day challenge, where it kind of split your 75 days up. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say challenge, your 75 hard program. It split it up where your gym was closed. All gyms were closed. So how did the quarantine affect your training through this?
So it actually, I honestly think it helped my outside workouts because outside became more prevalent after the quarantine. I was doing the same thing, but when I was doing inside workouts at the gym, I was doing about an hour and a half. I was really pushing myself very, very hard. Inside workouts when I don't have a gym are a little bit harder to do, harder to push yourself like that because I can't afford, I don't have a stair stepper in my house, I don't have stuff like that I can push myself like that. So I was doing, when I first started, I want to say it was around day 50 or 55 when the quarantine first started. And I was really worried because it was like, well, I'm not going to quit now. I've made it this far. Like I'm not letting myself do that. I told myself when I started day one, you're going to do this, you're going to do it right. You're going to do it for one time where there's no messing up and starting from day one. Like I'm going to do it one time through and knock this thing out. So I actually, for the first few days, I was doing body weight stuff inside. So it really impacted my inside workouts because, at the gym, I do a little bit of body weight stuff. I do a few push-ups, a few sit-ups, a little bit of planks, but like not much. To where now I'm doing an hour of just that stuff. I'm doing an hour of just push-ups, planks, sit-ups, leg raises, 6 inches, like going back to, high school football. I'm going back to stuff that we, coaches used to do just to make us miserable. Just doing burpees in my living room, like just stuff like that just to get my inside workout in. So now eventually I ended up getting a few resistance bands, a small medicine ball, very few small dumbbells. They're like adjustable dumbbells that I can either have 2 20-pound dumbbells or 1 40-pound dumbbells. So still pretty limited. And that's really all I have now. And that's what I finished with. I mean, it was extremely difficult for me to switch to go, doing my workouts at home because I had to look up a lot of stuff online and find a lot of workouts that, I thought would be good for me to do inside where I'd really be getting a good workout in. Like I didn't want to mail it in at day 50 because we were quarantined because I can't get good workouts inside. Like I was just making myself sweat. Like I legitimately was turning the heat on in my house, like turning all the fans off. Like I was trying to sweat, wearing hoodies, just doing anything I could to sweat as much as I could and get as much of a workout as I could and just make the best of that situation because, there's nothing we can do about that. It's not, I can do who I want about the gym being closed and I could have quit there. I'm sure some people would be like, oh, it's understandable. It's not your fault the gym's closed. But, when you look at that situation, it's just, you can look at it and let it take you over and let it beat you. Or you can say, okay, well, I'm going to find a way to do this regardless of what you're going to do. So I just, I had to make it work somehow. And I just did whatever I could,
Did you ever have thoughts of quitting where it was almost like a reality where it never even crossed your mind?
Not really. So, I thought about it as in like, I didn't think about it as a real option. There was no way in my mind I was going to let myself quit because I had already invested too much. Like, I'll be honest, like something like that happens on day 5 is a lot different than if it happens on day 50. I had already had 50 days invested. Like, that's a lot of time, a lot of hard work, a lot of effort. Like there was no way I was going to let myself, throw that away. And I know you're saying like, oh, well, you still have that progress from those days. It's not like if you quit now, you lose all the progress and you gain that weight back in the day. So it's not like it was for nothing, but it was for nothing because, if you're going to start something, you finish it. That's always been my mindset. I hate quitting stuff in the middle of it, even if it's a logical reason. I mean, I know, as I had a few nagging injuries that bothered me throughout that I could have easily been like, well, I'm going to take a few days off. I'm just going to restart it or do it. Like, and some people would have been like, oh, that's understandable. Like, there's nothing you can do. But I just, no, I never really took quitting seriously because I told myself on day 0, I said, if you're going to do this and decide to do this, there is no quitting. Like, you're going to have to, someone's going to have to take you away to not finish this.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the reason, like, when you talk about motivators and people that motivate you, Goggin, we talked about, Marcus Luttrell is one that motivates me, and his whole, the team never quit movement. That's something that I grabbed a hold of early on when I first started this thing. And I every day. I don't go a day without seeing it somewhere written on a post-it note or a memory that pops up on Facebook because it's everywhere for me now. So yeah, that I can't quit either. I understand what you mean.
Yeah, I actually I wear a bracelet every day. I never take off. This is never quit, and I'm not like that corny guy that does that. But it's a reminder to me. It just I see it every day, and it just reminds me, to never quit because it's so easy to quit. That is anybody can quit, right? Not everybody can do the
Absolutely, yeah.
program, not everybody can finish it, but everybody can quit. And like I told you guys before, there were so many times in my life where I had quit. So it was just having that reminder is enough to like kick my butt in gear, even if I'm having a slow day and I'm having a bad workout. Like it's enough to keep me going and get through and, having force myself to do what I need to do.
I know that the 75-day marker seems kind of intimidating because it's so long. But at the same time, I think it'd probably be nice to have in there just because it gives you something measurable to shoot for. So, like, even at your worst, it's like, okay, I only have, 40 days left. I only have 38 days left. I only have 33 days left. So, like, it gives you a tangible number that you're kind of measuring towards. So you don't have to worry about, like, oh my gosh, when's this diet going to end? Like, I hate this lifestyle. I hate eating these foods. I hate doing this running or whatever it is, even though I know that you didn't hate the stuff you were doing because you tailored it that way specifically, but having the 75-day marker probably seems intimidating, but I think that it could probably help more than anything. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, so somewhat. So one thing I noticed, and I've seen Andy talk about this multiple times, is, and you don't understand it, or I didn't understand it at least before I started it, is he said about how you really get in a zone when you get through this, when you get 20, 25 days in. And at first I was doing that. I was like, oh my gosh, 75 days, like this is going to be miserable. 75 days is a long time. But once you get into it, you really start to zone out, and the days fly by. They really do. I at this point, like today is my first day. Today's day 76 for me. So today's the first day I haven't had to do anything. It's been really weird for me because it became second nature. It's just stuff I feel like I should be doing every day now. So like, I actually didn't do much of a countdown. I did, like I said, I kept track every day in my notes what day it was and had everything dated, but I never really cared about that end date for me personally because I got into a zone where it was just like, we're doing this every day. It doesn't matter how many days are left. It doesn't matter if there's 1 day left or 70 days left. We're doing this today. Now, I will say once I got to like, at the start of this week, I really started to feel that, oh my, I'm done Saturday. So
yeah.
Then I did get kind of like, I was not looking forward necessarily, but I could see the finish line, and I actually didn't like that. I didn't like having that. I really appreciated the zone I was in, through the middle of this for 50 days, 60 days in the middle of this, where I was just every day, same thing. This is what we're doing. Doesn't matter how many days are left. You know what I mean?
And you wound up at what, 200.4, I think?
Yeah. So I weighed in, like I said, yesterday was my last day, and I weighed in this morning when I woke up, because that's how I did it. I weighed myself every 5 days, and I would weigh myself as soon as I woke up in the morning. So I try to keep my weight as consistent as possible, or when I weighed myself, how I weighed myself as consistent as possible. And I weighed at 200.4. So in my mind, my goal was to get under 200. Even though that's not part of the program, it doesn't matter. But I'm a competitive person. I wanted that tangible goal. So my goal was 200, and I, of course, came up 4/10 short. But I actually kind of appreciate that. And when I thought about it today, is I was just kind of playing around today. No workouts today. I wanted to take a day or two off, so I haven't really done much today. I was thinking about it, and at first I was kind of mad. I'm like, man, that sucks. Like, I really wanted to get to this number. And then, you see the progress pictures and you see the difference. And, I see how far I've come, and I'm like, man, I'm mad about 4/10 of a pound when I've lost 80 pounds or 85, whatever it kind of comes out to. And I don't plan on stopping in any sense. Like, obviously, I'm not going to be doing the 75 hard program the rest of my life, but this is more like a lifestyle change for me. So that 4/10 of a pound at the end of the day really doesn't matter because I'm going to lose it eventually. If not, I don't plan on stopping working out or stopping, having a healthy diet anytime soon. So at first I was a little frustrated with that, but I mean, I'm trying to, one of the things this program taught me is to look on the positive side of things. And instead of looking at how this sets you back. You look at what door opens, what opportunity you have now. So just actually kind of motivated me more that I came up short to, get back to it and lose that 0.4 of a pound next week rather than waiting a few weeks to, get back into things. Like it actually motivated me a little bit more. So turned out to be a good thing.
Well, you had an interesting perspective too. When we talked probably, I mean, and I talked pretty frequently on the phone, and even more frequently through text. And I remember about probably roughly a week ago, I said, "Oh, dude, you're going to make it. You're going to be really close. You're going to be under 200." And I remember that you mentioned, and I think this is something worth noting for everybody out there, that you weren't going to do anything gimmicky to make sure that you made it. Like you weren't going to like starve yourself for the last day just for the sake of being under, because then you would eat a meal or two and you'd be right back over. Like you said, you wanted it to be as genuine and as natural as possible and just continue to kind of, like the old cliche, trust the process and keep going. And then if you wound up there, you did great. And if you didn't, okay, that'll motivate me even more.
Yeah. I just didn't want to do something that, because even Andy says with this program, like if you're just solely trying to lose weight, there are better options out there in this program. If your only goal is to lose weight as fast as possible, as efficiently as possible, this program is not what you want to do. This is more of like a mindset thing. So that's where I got that from, is I'm like, there's a reason he didn't want you to weigh yourself. He'd rather you take progress pictures. There's a reason for that. And he has a podcast about, that explains it. I won't go too far into that. But so that weight thing, I mean, it's just a number. And I think people, when we talk about this at the start of the podcast, I think people get so caught up in the number that's on this scale. And, as long as you look better in the mirror, what does the number matter? Because especially when, all three of us are lifting weights pretty consistently when the gym's open. We're lifting weights pretty consistently. So it's really hard for that number to go down while you're lifting weights 4 or 5 days a week, because you're putting on muscle and it weighs more than fat. So, looking at that number, it can be so misleading. I think people are so afraid to look at the scale and see the number that's on there. It really doesn't matter. I mean, if you're happy with yourself and you can see the progress or the change in the mirror, that is what matters, not that you're, if I weighed in this morning at 199.8 pounds, would it have been any different? No, it wouldn't have changed my mindset at all, honestly.
And I think that it's great because, like, I personally use the term tool, like the weight, the scale weight is just a tool. Like it's good in a lot of aspects to kind of like measure and provide quantitative data as far as like weight loss or weight gain goes, but it shouldn't be the be all end all of what people are striving for. I definitely think it's a useful tool, but like you said, if you look better and you feel better, that's all that matters, is if you look better or feel better, because the only reason you want your weight to go down is so you look better and feel better.
Yeah.
Right.
Hence progress pictures.
Yeah, exactly. So I just don't think, I think the scale, so people are so fixated on the scale, and I just think it's, you have to learn to kind of tune that out. And it's, like I said, I could have went the whole 75 days without weighing myself. I didn't need to weigh myself. I chose to do that. I wanted to do that for a few different reasons, but, realistically, you could do it without weighing yourself. You don't need to do that. And I think people should. I think fixating yourself on that number on the scale is, it's misleading.
Yeah, for sure.
It is. The number can definitely be misleading. I really like the idea of not weighing yourself, even though I struggle with that like a lot. But like spending the time in the mirror, taking that picture, and I don't know, I haven't done this the program, but I can imagine spending time in the mirror, taking that picture, reflecting with yourself, is more important than looking at a scale and saying, yeah, I lost 5 pounds this week, because that's what everybody always asks, how much weight have you lost?
Mm-hmm.
And to me, I spend time, like I said, in the accountability mirror. And the first 2 post-it notes I ever put on was, I did put the number 526 pounds. I put 526, never forget. The second thing I put was, be okay with the man in the mirror. So, I want to be okay with that guy that's looking back at me. So, and right now I'm still not. So, that's why I'm still going. And I don't think I'll ever be okay with him.
Yeah, I think that started way before I started 75 hard with the mirrors. I wanted to be okay with what I looked like in the mirror physically, but also mentally who I saw in the mirror. And years ago, I wasn't, happy with that. I wasn't happy with how I lived my life, where I was at, in general. So it wasn't just about weight. So that's a whole different deal when you're looking in the mirror. It's not even just about physical, but it is about mental as well. But I mean, I sent Charlie my pictures this morning from day 1 to day 75, and it's obviously it is a big difference. You can see physically where I changed and what I lost, and I'm way more proud of that than I am of losing 22 pounds. Like 22 pounds to me is, I mean, that's awesome that I lost 22 pounds. It's great, but it's not important to me. What's way more important to me is the picture of day 1 where I'd already lost 60 pounds, but I'm still not happy. And I'm still not happy with where I'm at. Trust me, I really am not happy with where I am, but I'm happier than I was 75 days ago with where I was at. So that picture just was way more important to me than the weight, and it kind of solidifies that that's what should matter for me.
I think part of the main reason why Justin and I wanted you to go over this and come on our show was because I think this 75 hard program is something that seems, again, like we mentioned earlier, it kind of mitigates the ability to have an excuse. So I think it's a challenge, or excuse me, a program that every single person has the ability to do, as long as they do a little bit of planning to tailor it specifically to themselves. Now, obviously, you have to kind of approach it with the mindset of like, okay, I'm going to have to do stuff I don't like your workouts outside. If you're capable of doing more than walking, probably shouldn't just be walking for 45 minutes. And the diet, even though there's limited structure as far as like how that's regulated goes, you shouldn't say, oh, well, I'm going to eat 3 meals a day, and my first meal is going to be an omelet, my second meal is going to be a cheeseburger and fries, and my third meal is going to be ice cream, and I'm going to stick to it, because obviously there's no challenge there for most people. But I think that this is a program that everybody could follow. And I mean, Justin, you said right away when I first told you about it prior in an episode, and even now more so, you're like excited to do it.
Oh, I'm in. I got to get my ducks in a row to start. Hopefully, starting this bad boy on Monday. So I'm in.
What was the hardest part, Jeff? Was it because you said initially that the hardest part you anticipated being was the no cheat meals. Did that end up holding true, or was it, because for me, like, yeah, the cheat meals would be very, 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 very difficult. But when I look at it as what's the most difficult part, I would think, at least, especially the time you started it, I would think would be the outdoor workouts. Because I mean, you got started in this, in the wintertime, basically.
Yeah, I started February 3rd, I believe, or February 3rd. It was a Monday. So I'll be honest. I think every part of it was hard at different times. I really can't pick out one that was like, wow, that was the hardest thing. And it sounds funny because you're like, how is 10 pagers of reading hard? But I mean, there were some days and nights where I was so busy with work and stuff like that I was reading at midnight or 1 a.m. and I'm falling asleep. My eyes are shut, like stuff like that. Like, that's not physically hard, but mentally, just to have the discipline to do that. Like, there were probably 20 different nights where I was doing that, where I remember I told you one time I was standing up reading because I was falling asleep sitting down. Because back when the gym was open, I was getting up at 4 a.m. and going. So I was tired, and so stuff like that, like, it doesn't seem like that would be hard, but when you get into it, there are some days where it's like, I just don't want to read. Like, I'm tired. I want to go to bed. And so that's not physically hard, but mentally that it was harder than I thought it would be. And the same with a gallon of water. I mean, there were some days where I'd fall behind throughout the day and I would have to chug water right before bed. And I don't know if anyone's ever done that. It's not enjoyable. And you're up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, your real bloated, stomach's full. Like, that stuff was not, it was surprising to me, but it actually, that was some of the stuff that really bothered me the most. I mean, the inside workouts by far the easiest, and inside workouts every day wasn't a problem for me. The outside workouts definitely had their difficulty. I mean, when I started in February, there were days where it was snowing 10, 15 degrees, and I only had so much time in the day, so I couldn't just pick and choose my time. Like, well, it's raining right now, I'll go later. So I would have to do it at this time every day. It didn't matter what the weather was like. I couldn't pick and choose and try and avoid the rain, avoid the snow. So, I mean, even ironically, I actually laughed about it because on my last day yesterday, it was raining and it was cold. And it's like, we had some days where it was like 60, 65, and then it dropped back down to like 35. And it really teased me there. I thought I was going to have a cruise into the end, but no, yesterday it wasn't raining too hard, but it was sprinkling and it was cold. And I just normally, like months ago, that's something I've been mad about, something I got frustrated and been like, I'm trying to better myself and I can't. I just want to get through this without rain, without snow. And I just laughed about it because it's like, one, it's completely out of my control, and two, it is the backbone of this program, in my opinion, is having the mental discipline, the accountability to do a workout outside no matter what the weather is, because it's a variable you can't control. And it's something you don't need to be an athlete, you don't need to be a fitness person to relate that to anything in your life, whether it comes to your job, your family, like that variable's out of your control. So don't worry about it. If it's raining or snowing, put a hoodie on, put gloves on, do whatever you got to do and get it done. So, I mean, the outside stuff was hard, and, no alcohol was no problem. The cheat meals actually was not as hard as I thought. Once I got about 3 weeks in, it was honestly no problem. I never had a temptation, never had a time where I thought I was going to, accidentally eat something, fall out of it. But the cheat meals actually going to be a lot easier than I thought. And it was more or less the outside workouts and doing everything every day. There were just some days where I wouldn't want to do one thing or the other. And you just have to force yourself to do it. I mean, it's all a mental game. It's all in your head.
It makes a lot of sense, but like when you say, like I never would have fathomed you saying that the 10-page reading was the most difficult some days, or the drinking the water was the most difficult some days. But when you kind of put it into context like that, it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I understand why. When you come off of work and you're tired and you've already had an hour and a half cumulatively of working out, half of which was outside in the rain, and you worked and you've been up since 4, the last thing you want to do right now is read 10 pages, because 10 pages isn't a lot, but at the same time, it's lengthy when you want to go to bed.
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you how many nights I fell asleep on the couch while I was reading. And, I'd doze off for like 10 minutes and pop my head up, and the whole part of the reading is that's why you can't do an audiobook, because you're supposed to be focusing on this book and getting something from it. So I swear there were probably 15, 20 times where I would do my reading standing up, walking around my living room and reading, just so I was awake and alert and actually getting something out of that reading. Because like, you don't want to do it. You don't just want to be like a zombie through this stuff. You want to get the most out of it. So when I was reading, I wanted to get the most out of it. I wanted to pay attention to what I'm reading, focus on what I'm reading, and take something from it every day. Even though it's only 10 pages some days, I wanted to take something from that and be able to, have something from that I can use in my everyday life.
Yeah, of course.
Absolutely.
That's awesome, man.
I can't tell you. I don't think I can explain how excited I am to do this program. Like, because it encompasses everything. It encompasses everything about this healthier lifestyle that I've decided to do. It encompasses every aspect that I have highlighted myself. The diet, the exercise, reading is, because I'm not, I'm dyslexic, and I really have been, struggled reading my whole life. So I made a point to try to learn how to read, and I've failed recently, in my reading every day that I was trying to do. So this is something that's going to hold me accountable. I have to read every day. I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, I actually want to do this again eventually. So he actually has different phases of this. So all in all, it's like a total 1-year program where 75 hard is the first 75 days. And then there are 3 other phases that I'm honestly not completely familiar with, because 1, I haven't got there yet. 2, I'm not even sure if I'm going to do those. But there are 3 different phases that run different sets of days, and the goal or the rules are very similar, but they're a little bit different. The different phases have a little bit different rules to them as you progress. So I don't know if I'll do those. I honestly think I'm going to do this same program again eventually. I just don't know when I want to do it again, because I had fun with it. I did. It's not it started out really tough, but then once I get into a groove, like I said, I was really focused and head forward, and it was like, or head down, and it just wasn't. Um, there was never an option to me to not do it, and I just had fun with it. I enjoy working out and doing that kind of stuff, and I enjoy seeing myself get better and seeing that mirror picture every day, and it really kind of affected me in that way, where I'm like, oh, I kind of want to do this again eventually. So, I think it's awesome for anyone to do, because anyone can do it. I mean, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what kind of shape you're in. I mean, you can do this if you put your mind to it.
Yes. I love it.
Yeah, it's like I said before, it's something that I feel like everybody can kind of, it's something that if you're looking for, because I got to put it this way, I guess. Some people, when they try to do a particular program or a particular lifestyle, they're not ready. So when I have clients, that hire me and they've never had any type of structure with training, they've never had any structure with nutrition, I rarely, if ever, write them. I think Justin was probably one of the very rare exceptions. Do I ever write them a diet plan? And what we do is we start with incremental changes to like what they're already doing, like just something as simple as increasing water intake, increasing meal frequency or whatever, increasing vegetable intake, where you kind of make these incremental changes, because most people aren't ready to get a full diet and follow it and integrate it completely into their lifestyle. So I feel like the 75 hard also can be used as a precursor to that, to people who want to get something. But like you said, how Andy, mentioned that this isn't the best weight loss program if that's your main goal. Well, maybe this is a precursor to you getting on a program that's going to be better suited for weight loss, but it's going to be strengthening your mind, strengthening your will, strengthening your body prior to that. So then when you do the weight loss phase or program or whatever you're looking to do, you'll see better results from it because of this program. I think that's kind of how I'm looking at it.
Yeah, I think it definitely can be used like that. And, like we talked about, it actually kind of was the opposite for me, where it came after my biggest weight losses. I had already lost 60 pounds, and then I started it. So I think it can be used it can be structured, used however you need it to, honestly. I think it just betters you as a human being. And that's, at the end of the day, I think that's all that matters. It's not, it's great to lose weight. It's great to do, look better in the mirror. But I think the reason this program was put in place, from what I understand, from what Andy said, is it's a mental thing to just be a better human. And I can absolutely say I think it's definitely made that kind of impact on me, where I feel like I'm better in all aspects of life, not just my fitness life, where I'm, skinnier, better shape. Like I feel like I'm mentally in a better place than I was 75 days ago.
Which is arguably more important than the physical, because the mental
absolutely
has to be number one, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, man. So as a tradition here on the Chasing Dreams podcast, as you know from being a listener of the show, which we appreciate tenfold, we typically conclude all of our interviews with some questions or question. It's kind of like multifaceted type of question that Justin always asks our listeners. He kind of came up with it, and I thought it was neat how he always relates it back to the show. So every time we have a guest and we do an interview, we kind of always give this little forward here about some of the questions he's going to answer, because we always, try to take everything back to the title of Chasing Dreams, and trying to inspire people, whether it's, through world record holding powerlifters like we had last week, or yourself as a self-proclaimed, quote, fat guy who likes to run. Whatever we do, we're trying to inspire people and have people be motivated to do what's best for them and what they think is, chasing their dreams, so to speak. So Justin, you want to hit them up with our ritual questions here?
Yes, absolutely. So here it is. It says, what does the phrase chasing dreams mean to you? And do you feel as though you've chased your dreams this far? And how do you continue to chase your dreams and help others do the same? I know that's a hard question, so just
What's funny is I do listen. I think I've listened to all your guys' episodes except for one or two. I actually usually listen to them on my outside workout, and it worked out because, you guys run about 50 to an hour, and most of my outside workouts are in about 50 minutes. So it worked out perfect. And I still, this is still a hard question to answer, even though I've heard it before and I've thought about it while I was, doing my workouts. Most people with a dream, I feel like have some type of, it's some type of like, money goal or some type of stuff. Like I want to make this much a year. I want to have this house. I want to have this car. And I do have those short-term goals as well. I think everyone has those, but I mean, my goal is I more or less like I do this for myself and for my family. And I want the people around me, the people that actually care about me, to be proud of who I am. I want to be proud of who I am. I want to give the people that invest on myself. Like I know, your family puts an investment in you by raising you, spending money on you, treating you like family. That's an investment in my eyes. I want to give those people a return on their investment. I look at it from a financial side almost, but I want them to be happy with their investment, that I turned out, as a good person and, successful, happy, whatever way you want to put it, and, just impact others in some way or another. So I love that, you now want to do this program, because, not that I'm the reason you're doing it, but you wouldn't have heard of it if I hadn't, brought it up. So I like that you may be doing this program just because I was talking about it, and it's just something that I did. It's not something that I came up with or something that's so crazy difficult. It's just something that I was talking about. So, I like that I can impact people that way, because even one of my best friends I grew up with is talking about doing it now as well, just from him and I talking about it. So I think when you talk about chasing dreams, I think that is more of the dream for me is, obviously trying to be the best version of myself is, what everyone should be chasing. But, all that other stuff too, being a happy person and helping the people around me that invested on me, returning on that investment. To answer the second part, about chasing it so far. So honestly, for the longest time, I don't think I did. I don't think for 20 some years of my life, I was really chasing it, other than, I loved coaching. That was about it. Every other aspect of my life, I feel like I was really slacking and not doing the best I could. But the last few years, I really think I've done a better job to where I am chasing my dreams now, even though I'm nowhere close to where I want to be. And I still have a ton of work to do in every aspect, not just weight and fitness, but, and as a person, I definitely think now I'm still chasing it. And the only way to continue that for me is just to keep my head down, keep working hard, and keep striving to do better. To put it the basic way, and I think I got this from coaching, I'm sure I heard it from someone. Every day you either get better or you get worse, you win or you lose. So for me to continue, that's all it is every day, are you getting better or are you getting worse? Because you're never just sitting where you were at. You're either better than yesterday or worse than yesterday. So, the only thing I can do to help other people with that too is just share what I did like I am today, and just share it with you guys, and hope it gets out to people that will actually, try this and do it now, and they'll better themselves. Because, I'm not, it's not like I have a degree in this stuff and I have, all this knowledge that nobody else has. I know just as much as anybody else can find on the internet. I just know what worked for me. And I know at one time I was grossly overweight, grossly unhappy. And now, I'm, for the majority, I'm not. So I know it worked for me. So I just hope that it can work for somebody else.
Wow. I think that might be the most thorough, and probably, not that I'm saying this against any of our other guests, but that might have been the most thorough and most well-articulated answer to that question I think we've had so far.
Well, I've heard it a few times. Like I said, I've listened to you guys. I've listened to most of your guys' episodes, and I've heard it, so I've had some time to think about it. So I'm kind of cheating compared to the other guests that kind of probably got put on the spot or may have not have listened to it yet.
Yeah, but that's definitely very insightful. I like the return on investment for people that invested in you. I never thought of it that way, and that's a pretty interesting way to think about it. And like, I don't know, for whatever reason, that just really resonated with me, and now I feel like I'm going to be thinking about that for the rest of the night. It's just that phrase about how you need to make, obviously, yourself proud, like you mentioned, but you need to make it worthwhile. Everybody that invests in you. Like, I immediately think of my parents, because our families have been kind of a centerpiece of and a talking point, for lack of a better word, for so many episodes where we've talked about our families and our upbringings and how we were raised. And, I immediately think of my parents, and like, I think now almost in a guilty sense, or somewhat questioning, like, man, have I really given them a 100%, if not 150% more than 100% return on investment? Like, what would my parents say? You know, obviously they're my parents, so I'm sure they'd be happy regardless, but I feel like I could be more for them and for the people that I've had, you know, so many interactions with, and the people that have helped shape me. It's definitely a very, very unique perspective there. I like that.
Yeah, I really do enjoy that too.
Yeah,
That was a great answer.
Thank you. Like I said, I think about my family. I come from a great home. Both my parents still would bend over backwards for me to this day if I needed it. So, I mean, it's just, you know, everyone thinks because they're your parents that you know, they're supposed to do that, right? Everyone kind of uses that word, oh, they're your parents, they're supposed to. But so many people grow up without one, maybe sometimes one parent, sometimes two. So some people's parents aren't like that. So when your family, I mean, and myself, personally, I have two sisters as well that would do anything for me if I needed it. So, you know, they don't have to do that for you just because they're family. I personally have family that's not blood, but I consider them family. So it's, you know, sometimes you get that connotation where just because they're family, they have to take care of you. And they don't. You know, some people's family don't do that stuff for them. So whereas, you know, us three may come from a good home where our family, you know, our parents and siblings were great to us. It's not for everybody. Not everyone gets that. So, you said sometimes you have to sit down, and I don't do the best job of it. Trust me, I want to get better at that as well, but I don't appreciate that enough sometimes. But that's why. That's one of the things I've thought about to try and appreciate it more is, you know, they've invested time, money, you know, a lifetime into me basically. So just want to try and give back as much as I can and make sure that they're proud, you know, of what I've done, who I've become. You know what I mean?
Very cool.
Yeah, that's a really cool answer. It is.
Well, man, we've kind of monopolized enough of your time at this point, I'm sure. So before we kind of conclude and wrap things up, we like to give our guests the opportunity to kind of do some selfless promotion here. I know that you're kind of going to scoff at that and say you don't really have a lot to promote, but if somebody wants to reach out to you and ask questions about the challenge, or kind of gain some more insight on what your experience was like, because, you know, truthfully, we obviously talked for well over an hour, but there was so much more we could have delved into and dissected here. So if somebody wants to reach out to you and kind of, you know, find the bits and pieces that we didn't cover about the program, where can they contact you, like social media wise?
Yeah, so honestly, my usernames on everything are different, unfortunately. I don't know them off the top of my head. I know that, I mean, the easiest way probably would be Facebook, just because I know we don't have usernames for that. So, you know, my full name, my name on there is just Jeff Weidger, my last name spelled Weidger. And yeah, I mean, I don't have anything to promote, anything like that. If you have questions, honestly, feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to answer questions and help anyone I can with stuff like this, because I think, you know, I do have a different insight on it because I've already done it. But honestly, if you really want to do it too, just go to Andy Frisella's page, and he posts he's still to this day, he created this over a year ago, and he still posts about it all the time because he wants people to do it. And you don't have to pay anything for this. It's completely free. He has the templates on his Instagram page. He has the Spotify podcast where he explains everything. I mean, his page as well is going to be a good thing. But if you do have personal questions, I mean, feel free to add me on Facebook, send me a message that way, and I'll get back to you, because if I can answer anything and help anyone to do this like I was able to, and it helps me like it would somebody else, I'd be glad to.
And for the record, where we post this, I typically post on Instagram, and Justin handles the Facebook side of things since I don't have Facebook. I'll make sure to tag your Instagram there as well in case people want to reach out to you.
Yeah, I think my Instagram is just J Weege without the R, so I think that one's easy.
Okay.
But yeah, absolutely, you can tag me so people, you know, can look at me on there.
Awesome. Well, dude,
Yes.
appreciate you joining us.
So
yeah, no, like I said, I'm honored you guys asked me to do this. I don't feel like, you know, I live up to the standards of your previous guests, but I appreciate it.
No, I love the idea of the everyday Joe that is found success in an avenue of their life and is willing to tell how and why. You know, I love that stuff, man. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Well, ladies and
I'm just
gentlemen,
glad I could help.
with that, we have come to the end of another episode. Like I said,
Well, hold up 1 second.
oh, I forgot. I'm glad you interrupted me. Yeah, we have to get
Yes.
drawing. So, Jeff,
Yeah,
you're actually
so
kind of like privy to this information firsthand because you're sitting in and seeing it live now.
yeah. So we did the where we asked you guys to tell us the secret word, Dream Chaser, and we had like I think it was 25 or 30 people that sent us, myself for Charlie, the word.
Yeah, I had a
Since
lot.
Yeah, it was a really good turnout, and I really appreciate it. That means we have, I think when in the original episode we quoted it, the OGs, the original people that have been following us since day one. This was a challenge that we came up with to say thank you to you guys. So I went ahead. We were originally going to draw one name, but I was like, you know what? Let's do three. So we threw all the names in a hat. I pulled three at random, and the three names that we pulled were Deb Carnes, Becky Mahoney, and Seth Duffy. So if you hear this, give us a shout on the social medias. I'll personally message each one of you guys um, after we air this episode, and get your mailing address, your shirt size, and a color preference, and we're gonna get you guys a shirt that only you guys will ever have. Nobody, not even Charlie or I, will ever have this design for the show. It's going to be specific to you, and it's just a say thank you.
Very cool.
So,
yeah, I appreciate it as well, guys. I'm going to kind of echo those sentiments there and say thank you very much for listening. It's actually awesome that we've have the opportunity where we can actually like draw names from a list of people that have listened for so long. And not only that, but when we gave the code word that people were to message us, it was always at like the very end of the episode as things were wrapping up. So I mean, these people, obviously we have several dozens of people that were listening from start to finish, like clear all the way to the end, not just through the meat and potatoes of our interviews or our podcast or whatever. They're coming straight to the end and heard it. So that's wonderful. So thank you guys for listening. Okay, so now we have come to the end of another episode of the Chasing Dreams podcast. So we appreciate you guys, as always, listening. So for Justin and Jeff, I'm Charlie, and we will talk to you guys next time.